Well, I finally watched Wish, and oh boy do I have some things to say. Before getting into the rewrite, I want to talk about the movie and some of the issues I have with the film. I'll talk about the issues in sections similar to my Rebel Moon deep dive video, and then I'll address the changes that I made for the rewrite, and then we'll get into the actual rewrite. First up, let's talk about my impressions of the film. The best word to describe this film is safe. It was a very generic film with a basic storytelling execution. There was just no risk taken with this film. Rebel Moon was overly ambitious, but at least Zack Snyder tried. I'll give him that much. But with Wish, it felt like the bare minimum was done. Which leads me to the appearance of the film. The coloring was very bland. Some might try to argue that because of the concept of the story, perhaps that's why the colors was so muted, which is a good idea. However, by the end of the film, the colors remained the same. It did not alter in any way. I watched one of Aaron Blaze's videos where he talked about his time working on Brother Bear and how it was a creative choice that they start the film with muted colors, and when the main character Kenai is turned into a bear, they brighten the colors to show the different perspectives. Now let's talk about the music. Individually, I think the songs are fine on their own, but when they're put together to construct a story, it doesn't sound cohesive. They don't sound like they come from the same movie. Also, the transition from speaking to singing feels a little forced. It doesn't feel as natural like with Coco or Encanto, and I'm not even going to compare them to the Renaissance movies. As for the lyrics, I hate how modern the vocabulary is. I never noticed the type of dialogue being used within these films until someone made a video pointing it out in Raya and the Last Dragon. Now I get annoyed when I hear modern words in a time period setting, and oh my god, did these songs annoy me with words like outer space, genetics, and prob. With the first song, Welcome to Rosas, I got theme park vibes. I know that this song gets compared a lot to The Family Madrigal, and while I do see the similarities, I can't help but have this feeling that this performance piece was a self-insert for the Disney theme park. As for At All Costs, the song itself is fine. I actually really like the song. However, the placement of it in the film is extremely awkward to me because it's a love ballad and it's sung by Asha and Magnifico. They're singing the song to the wishes, but it's still a little awkward. Now on to This Wish. It's a vague I want song. It's not being explicit as to what Asha actually wants, and the lyrics don't match well with what's happened. It's unfortunate. That's the best way to describe this song. With I'm a Star, I don't like the song for a multitude of reasons, but the main one is the explanation to why the star is there. It felt like it was needlessly overcomplicated despite the fact that the whole story is extremely simplistic. This Is the Thanks I Get suffers from the same problem that This Wish does. Again, the lyrics does not match well with what we've seen so far from the character. This song reveals the self-centered nature of Magnifico that we haven't really seen until this song. Finally, knowing what I know now, it's fine, it's got a nice beat. Again, if you just listen to the songs without watching the movie, they're mostly fine on their own. But it's awkward to listen to these songs in the film because they don't match with what's happening in the movie half the time. I know that Joya Michaels, who produced these songs, has been getting some flack, and while I do hold her responsible for some of the issues, I mostly blame the producers of the film because Joya revealed that she was not given ample time to properly construct these songs, and she also was not given access to the film and was only given vague descriptions of what was required for some of the songs. Now let's move on to the biggest issue that I believe crippled this film, and that is the writing, specifically the writing of the magic system. The magic within this film is a driving force of the narrative. However, the use of magic is inconsistent. Magnifico is the only one that can use magic, despite it being implied in the beginning of the film that if you study the material, you should be able to use magic.
He studied the magic of the world tirelessly and became a mighty sorcerer.
Regardless, he's so powerful that he can make anyone's wish come true, no matter how absurd it might be. Now here comes the issue. Asha's father got sick and died, and Asha's best friend has a limp, and at no point did any of these people go to the king and ask him to use his magic to heal them. It's wild to me that this got past a room of professional writers. Even if AI had a hand in this, as some speculate, I would think that the script would have at least been proofread by one experienced writer. Due to that issue, that's why one of the changes I'll be making in this rewrite will be the magic system, which will affect Magnifico's character but also Star as well. When it comes to the rewriting of these films, I don't want to deviate too much from the main storyline. Anyone can rewrite a story while keeping the same elements within it. However, that defeats the purpose of these rewrites, and that is to prove that these stories can work just as they are with just a few alterations. I know that I haven't always kept to that, but I've been learning along the way. With that said, I don't know what the original concept for this movie was supposed to be, except for it's supposed to be the origin story of the song When You Wish Upon a Star, and also that Star was supposed to have a human form. That's all I know, and that's all I want to know because I don't want it to affect my decision making for this rewrite. Now that we got all that covered, let's finally get into the rewrite itself. Enjoy. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom ruled by a family of magicians. They shared their magic with their people, so they could make their greatest wishes come true. However, not all wishes was made with the purest intentions. There was those that was not satisfied with what they had and wanted more. Those selfish desires threw the kingdom into chaos, and as a last resort to restore peace to the kingdom, the family of magicians used forbidden magic. But instead of bringing peace, it destroyed everything, with only a lone survivor to bear this terrible memory. With no home, he sought out to make a new one where his family's mistakes would not be repeated. A ship lost in the fog spots an island and steer towards it. When they arrive, they are greeted by Asha, whose job it is to greet all newcomers to their island. She shows them around, and it doesn't take long for them to notice that the citizens have unique talents. This leads Asha to explaining their unique system through song. So, what did you think of Rosas? It's great, but do you really have to give your wish to the king? Only when you turn 18. Are you 18? Not yet, but it's my wish. I know it sounds odd, but that's the rule if you want to stay here. If I give my wish to the king, when will it be granted? That's completely up to the king, but if you work in the palace, there's a chance that your wish might be granted sooner than most. Do you work in the palace? As a matter of fact, I start my new job today as the king's personal assistant. So your wish will probably be granted soon, huh? Not really, I'm not 18 yet, but there is a wish that I would like for the king to grant. What's that? My Saba turned 100 today, and his wish has still yet to be granted. That's kinda why I sought out a position in the palace. He went that long without his wish being granted? What hope do I have to get my wish granted then? What's your wish? Daya looks down at her leg. It's silent between the two of them for a moment, but then Asha gets an idea. She asks Daya if she can cook. Daya is taken back by the sudden question, but answers yes. Asha informs her that the baker used to be the cook in the palace, but he got his wish granted and now he has his own bakery. So the palace is in need of a new cook. Daya is hesitant to agree to go to the palace with Asha, but Asha's sincerity gives her the confidence to go with her. Okay, let's address the changes so far. First up, I gave more context to Magnifico's backstory because he desperately needed it, specifically because I got the impression that Magnifico was triggered when people would ask him for things, and I thought that'd be an interesting character trait to lean on, especially when depicting him spiraling. Another reason for the changes was to give more specification to the magic system because, to me, the film implied that anyone could learn it. If that's the case, why is Magnifico the only one that can use magic, especially since he seems to have had multiple assistants before Asha, which begs the question, did they learn any magic from him since they work so close with him? That's the reason for the changes. Also, the Book of Dark Magic was a lazy plot device, which in my opinion hints to how much care went into constructing this story. Now onto Dahlia. I did not originally plan this as I was still trying to figure out what to do with the friend group, but it did feel more natural that the information that the audience receives would be given to a character that was just as much in the dark. But who would this character be? And that's when Dahlia came to mind. This also keeps the tone from sounding so condescending, like in the film. Now let's go ahead and address the leg real quick. Clearly, healing magic doesn't exist in this world, and I'm not going to tamper with that, but I wanted to address it in my own subtle way so that it's not just being ignored. And also, I use this to show how caring Asha is without blatantly saying so like in the film. When it comes to the bias system within this film, how everyone that works with the king more or less gets their wish granted, it's an interesting concept, but it doesn't go anywhere and no one seems to be bothered that the system is rigged. Another issue I noticed is that we don't hear about the people that got their wishes granted. I'm trying to address these things as moderately as possible without going into too much detail. Once at the palace, Asha introduces Dahlia to some of the staff that works in the kitchen. Dahlia gets to work proving her cooking skills while Asha leaves to start her new job. She's brought before the queen, who gives her a brief reminder of her new obligations. Asha, do you know why I picked you out of all the other candidates? No, your majesty. I know how eager everyone is to have their wish granted, but the king has his reasons for only granting so many at a time. That's why he goes through so many assistants. They only seem to want the position to get their wish granted and then ask to be released of their duties. I know they don't mean any harm by it, but it does take its toll on the king. That's why I chose you, because you're not 18 yet. Your Majesty, I truly am grateful for this opportunity, and I will do my best to fulfill my duties as the king's assistant. It's just... I want to help all that I can. The queen presents Asha to the king. He takes one glance at her and returns to his work. The queen assures Asha that he's always like that and that it takes time for him to warm up to others. When left alone, she tries to make small talk, but the king barely responds. When the day is over, she awkwardly says goodbye, feeling like she didn't accomplish anything. She goes to the kitchen, finding Dahlia has made friends with the staff already. When they see Asha, they all ask about the king and what he's like. Asha doesn't really know what to say, but Dahlia quickly informs them that she has to go home for her grandfather's birthday. She hands Asha a basket with a cake in it. When Asha returns home, her her family celebrates her Saba's 100th birthday. Valentino gets in a bit of mischief and causes a cluster of objects to fall. Among them is a mandolin. I didn't know you had a mandolin. Oh, that's your Saba's. Saba, I didn't know you played. Oh, that was a long time ago, before you were even born. Why'd you stop? I don't really remember. I guess I just lost interest. I think it might have been around the time that you gave your wish to Magnifico. Did you really stop playing when you gave your wish to the king? It's been so many years, Asha, there's no telling what could have made me stop playing. The fact that I never picked it back up should tell you that I probably wasn't all that interested in it. That's not true, Saba. I remember you playing it all the time. You took it everywhere with you. Would you please play a song, Saba? It's been so many years. I probably don't even remember how. Both Asha and her mother encourage him to try. Saba strings a few chords, but a sadness takes over him as he struggles to remember how to play. Frustrated, he puts it down, not wanting to look at it. Sakima takes it and tells Asha to put it away. Instead of Magnifico being an approachable person like in the film, I want to show how his experience has affected him. This also has to do with the fact that we already know he's going to turn evil, so there's no point, in my opinion, in presenting the already established villain as benevolent, especially when there's no bait and switch going on in this story. As for the whole assistant position, we're never really given a reason in the film why Magnifico goes through so many assistants, even though I think it's pretty easy to figure out why. The reason I'm addressing it is to not only explain how and why Asha is given the position despite her being so young, but to also set up that characterization that I talked about earlier with Magnifico's character by showing him not being very open and trusting to Asha right away. When it comes to the narrative of the film, the biggest criticism was not depicting what the negative effects of giving one's wish away could implement. The song Welcome to Rosas made it clear that for the most part, everyone was content with their lives despite their wishes not being granted. There was no depiction of jealousy or resentment towards anyone who did get their wish granted, so for the most part, Rosas was a utopia. In a weird way, Saba, Asha's grandfather, is a testament to that. The man is 100 years old and mobile, so clearly he's had a comfortable life, and at no point does he ever express regret for the life he's lived until after he gets his wish back. That is why I added this scene right here, to show what this man unintentionally gave up and what Magnifico most likely intentionally took from him and everyone else whose wishes he takes. This was also used to ignite a motivation for Asha to start questioning the system. Asha hangs out in the kitchen with Dahlia and the others, delaying going to the king. Dahlia notices this and asks her about it, but Asha's hesitant to talk about it. Instead, she asks Simon if he remembers his wish. Everyone's a little taken back by her question since it's well known that they forget it when they give it to the king. Don't you think it's odd that you can't remember your own wish? But isn't that what makes the wish even more special when it's granted? We get to rediscover our greatest wish. But why can't we choose to keep it if we want to? Because those are the rules if you want your wish granted. Then why hasn't my Saba's wish been granted yet? Simon becomes frustrated and storms out as everyone becomes uneasy by Asha's questioning, all except Dahlia, who encourages her to ask the king. Asha becomes determined to do exactly that as she marches to the king's office. However, when she opens the door, she's completely taken back by the chaos. Flurries of magic are running rampant. Magnifico tells Asha that they'll disappear if they're hit. Asha picks up a broom and starts hitting them. However, everything they touch comes to life, and that includes the broom Asha's using. She holds onto the broom as it fights to free itself from her grip. She manages to hit another magic flurry against what she thought was a wall, but it turned out to be a door. The broom escapes Asha's grip and goes inside. She follows it but forgets about it when she sees the wishes. Magnifico manages to put everything back in order when he waves his hands with force, but notices the door is open. What do you think? They're beautiful. It's okay, you can touch them, but I recommend only touching them one at a time. The emotions they give off can be overwhelming. Asha carefully holds a wish. Magnifico notices one making its way towards her. He grabs it and looks into it. Asha turns to ask him something but immediately notices her Saba's wish in his hand. Magnifico hands it to her and Asha tears up as she not only sees his wish but feels the warmth and love that it's giving off. To Magnifico's dismay, the wishes respond to Asha's emotions. However, Asha becomes lightheaded and has to lean on Magnifico for support. He pushes the wishes away and takes her out of the room. What just happened? Those wishes are a mixture of my magic and pure emotion. Being overexposed can cause serious side effects. You're lucky you walked away with just a light head. Do they affect you? If I'm not careful, but my magic protects me as long as I stay focused. That is why I'm the only one allowed in that room. Not even Amaya's allowed in there. Treasure what you just saw, Asha, for you are never allowed in there again. For your own safety, of course. I understand, but if I may, I'd like to make a request. The wish you gave me was my Saba's. Please make it come true. I thought you were different. Amaya assured me you were different, but you're just like the rest of them. Please, your majesty, hear me out. I will dedicate my life to serving you if you would just grant my Saba's wish. If you saw it for yourself, you know just how beautiful it is. I saw the wish. I know what it is he wants. He wants to inspire the next generation with his music, inspire them to want more than what they already have. Asha's taken back by Magnifico's description of her Saba's wish. She tries to argue, but Magnifico makes it clear that the only wishes he will allow to be granted are those that satisfy the restless and never encourage yearning. After hearing this, Asha insists that he at least give back the wishes he has no intention of granting. Why would I do that? The people gave me their wishes of their own will, and they'll remain in my possession by my will. How can you say that? Yesterday, I learned that my Saba used to play the mandolin, but I never got to hear it because you took that away from him. What I take is their greed. I take away the cause of their discontentment, so they can be grateful for the lives they have, for the life I am giving them, and if you can't see that, then you are excused from your duties indefinitely. I focused this section on showing the different perspectives of how the people in this world view wishes because that was another contributing problem within the film. There was no contrasting viewpoints of the wishes. Everyone thought the same about them, which made Magnifico's motive for keeping the wishes a little less believable. In one scene we see that he cherishes them, but then he does a 180 and refuses to see the good in them the way Asha does, but just sees the potential destruction they can cause. The lack of depth into his background did not help, and neither did the pacing. That is why I'm adding extra days and made those additions at the beginning of the rewrite to set up the reveal of what Magnifico sees these wishes as. The film for the most part presented Asha's response in this section decently, and I had no real cause to change that. However, I did rearrange when the wish ceremony will take place in the story. I personally didn't like how quickly things happen in the film, and I also didn't particularly care for how often the townspeople would gather when something happened. It felt a bit contrived, so I'm limiting that. Back home, Asha's family becomes concerned for her as she's barely spoken a word or touched her food. Her mother tries to cheer her up by talking about the ceremony tomorrow, but to their shock, that only seems to upset her more. Her grandfather insists that she talk about it. Saba, won't you please play the mandolin? Asha, we've been through this. I just can't. I don't know why, but it just hurts too much. Because that was your wish. What are you talking about, Asha? I saw it. Your wish. Words can't describe how beautiful it was. You saw it? Does that mean the king's going to grant my wish tomorrow? I'm so sorry, Saba, but no. Why? Is there a reason the king won't grant his wish? A lump forms in Asha's throat as she struggles to find the courage to repeat what the king said, but she just doesn't have the heart to. With no explanation, Sakima is inclined to believe that perhaps Asha misheard the king and insists that there's still hope that Saba's wish will be granted tomorrow. Asha can't bear to hear anymore and excuses herself. She walks to the place that her father used to take her to stargaze, however the sky is not as bright as it used to be when she was a child. Why do you like stars so much? Because they are our hopes and dreams. No, they're not. They're just lights. A star is a wish just waiting to come true. But the king grants wishes, not stars. That is true, but some wishes are just too precious to rely on others to fulfill. That is why you wish upon a star instead. Asha makes her wish, and to her astonishment, a bright light from the sky illuminates the entire kingdom, but then to her dismay, it seems to be falling straight towards her. She runs and manages to dodge it, but to her shock, hears laughter coming from the light. You wished! You made a wish! You wished upon a star! I'm sorry, I won't do it again. No, we want you to wish. We love hearing your wishes. We? Yes, all of us. All the stars. I don't understand what's happening right now. Star explains that the stars above listen and hears people's greatest desires and assist in granting their wishes. However, less and less people have been wishing upon stars, and as a result, most of them have stopped listening. That is why the sky is not as bright as it used to be. But Star believed that one day someone would wish upon a star again, and he would be the one to help them make it come true. You're here to make my Saba's wish come true. No, I'm here to help make your wish come true. But helping my Saba is my wish. No, it's not. What do you mean it's not? I think I know what my own wish is. You may think you know what your wish is, but your heart is where your true wish lies. Okay, fine. What is my true wish? I can't tell you. Are you kidding me? It's my wish! Those are the rules. I have to go by the rules. To withhold my own wish, can't you just whisper it to me or something? Absolutely not. If I break any of the rules, your wish will never come true and no other star will ever listen to you wish again. If I don't know my own wish, how will I know when you make it come true? Star was perplexed by what Asha just said. He tries to explain that's not how wishing works, and that's not how stars operate. Frustrated with Star, Asha gives up trying to get a straight answer from him and instead asks if he'd be willing to help her get her Saba's wish back. Star smiles at the request. Ah, now you're starting to get it. Before we talk about the shiny elephant in the room, let's get through the first half of this section. There's nothing inherently wrong with Asha revealing the truth about her Saba's wish in the film. Perhaps the problem is it feels misplaced. That's my personal opinion, and that's kind of why I didn't do the same in this rewrite. Now, as for Asha's father, I didn't like that the film explained how he died, specifically because it came from the mouth of the guy with the magic. If I'm being honest, it felt like someone was trying to be cheeky with that. With that said, the reason for the flashback is to slip in a piece of information that will be significant. Now let's finally talk about Star. Again, I don't know what the full concept of his character was supposed to be because I didn't do any research because I didn't want it to affect how I rewrote this film in fear that it might cause me to divert too much from the main storyline. For the most part, Star serves the same function as he did in the movie, and that is to help grant Asha's wish. The difference is you're gonna get some commentary from him now. This was mainly due to the interactions between Asha and Star coming off as a Lassie skit.
What is it, Lassie? There's a fire down at the old church?
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think one of the reasons why Star's character was possibly reduced down to a mute ball of light, besides merchandising purposes, but possibly to avoid talking about the philosophical meanings behind what it means to wish. I don't know, maybe I'm overreaching. The film does a decent job showing how the people are taking for granted what a wish truly is because it's just given to them, and I wanted to extend upon that with the conversation between Asha and Star, as Asha would obviously still be under the impression that wishes can automatically be granted. However, Star, in his own unique way, is breaking that perception, but Asha still has some growing to do before she's ready to understand and accept this new truth. Before reaching the town, Asha asks Star if he could turn off his light, but Star declines her request. He makes it clear that his light is his life. However, what he can do instead is transform into a simpler form. Asha puts him in the bag and walks through town. She tries to sneak past the kitchen, but Daya spots her. She asks Asha about yesterday because she left early. Asha makes up an excuse that she wasn't feeling well, but she's ready to get back to work. Daya lets Asha go, but as she's leaving, Daya notices that her bag is moving. Asha enters the study to the Queen and King's surprise. Asha? I was under the impression you weren't coming back. Yes, well, I had some time to think about it, and I realized there is a lot that I still have to learn, and if the king would allow it, I'd like to stay under his service and learn all that I can from him. That's excellent, isn't it, Magnifico? I told you she was different. The queen leaves so they can get to work. The king, however, is obviously suspicious, and Asha does her best to hide her discontentment for him. She looks around and notices that his office is in disarray. When she asks him about it, he mentions the light from last night. Asha tries to play dumb as he goes on to explain that it was not his magic that caused that light, but knows that the people will be asking about it at the ceremony this evening. He's been frantically looking for an answer but hasn't found one yet. Star fidgets in the bag at the subject of the conversation. You wouldn't know anything about this, would you? Me? No, I don't know anything about magic. It's just you were really upset yesterday when you learned how I chose which wish gets granted. Learning new things can be shocking, but you are the king, so you would obviously have our best interest at heart, wouldn't you? Yes, I do. Everything I do for your own good, to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. What do you mean? Magnifico shows Asha the tapestry and reveals where he came from and what his family did for its people. He emphasizes how ungrateful they were and always wanted more, and how people's selfish desires ruined his family's kingdom. Star becomes triggered by Magnifico's story, and Asha struggles to keep him under control. Magnifico leaves to prepare for the ceremony as Asha is left to clean, but he tells her that if by some chance she finds out something about the light last night, he'll consider her request. The nerve of that man, claiming that wishes are nothing but selfish desires. Let's get your Saba's wish and get out of here. Asha? He said he'd consider granting my Saba's wish if... Asha, he was lying. How do you know that? I'm a star, Asha. We feel what's in people's hearts, and in his... Let's get what we came here for and leave. Asha shows Star where the door is, and it immediately opens to his presence. She's hesitant to go in due to what happened last time, but she sees no way around it. Asha quickly starts looking for her Saba's wish and describes it to Star, so he can look too. However, it doesn't take long for both of them to feel the effects of the wishes, especially Star. They're all drawn to Star, and his light becomes brighter as he becomes surrounded by the wishes. Asha is forced to cover her eyes as Star's light engulfs the room. The explosion of light catches everyone's attention, including Magnifico, who not only saw but felt it as well. Asha manages to carry Star out of the room, but he's barely conscious. She hears people approaching and locks the office door. She struggles to figure out what to do next, but luckily remembers the dumbwaiter. She asks Star to transform so they can escape. Meanwhile, Magnifico breaks down the door after his knights failed to do so, only to find the room empty. Amaya ushers everyone out of the room as she spots green sparks starting to surround Magnifico. You need to calm down. How can I calm down when I'm being threatened? I know what it looked like, but the feeling that light gave off doesn't feel malice. Instead, it felt what? Hostile, vicious, malevolent? Hopeful. The source of that light will be the end of the order that I worked so hard to achieve with this kingdom. This is Asha's doing. That's ridiculous. No one can use magic but you. Despite Amaya's objections, Magnifico is convinced that Asha is responsible for the light and orders his guards to find her and bring her to him. After Asha learned the truth, it comes off in the film that she's not welcome back into the palace, but it's never addressed. In fact, a lot of things are never addressed in this movie, and I think that's done on purpose to make it easier for when or if they need to alter or change events within the story. With that said, my goal within this section is to do some informating that is going to be relevant when the final conflict takes place. First off, I like the idea that the wishes are somewhat sentient and are drawn to certain individuals under different circumstances. I hinted at this when Saba's wish was being drawn towards Asha because that's his granddaughter. Same thing goes with Star. Because he's a literal star, it makes sense that all wishes would be drawn to him. Lastly, when it comes to Magnifico's corruption, there was some promising setup in the movie, but fuck that fucking book. It pisses me off because it blatantly tells me that the writers didn't even fucking try. It's not in this rewrite because it boils my fucking blood, so instead I addressed it in the intro, foreshadowing his corruption and through visuals showing that it's starting. That's what's pissing me off about this movie and other recent Disney works. It doesn't have faith in its audience and instead spoon feeds everything to them. The point of animation is that it's nothing but visuals, and instead of leaning on that to assist in telling the story like so many other great animated works have done, it almost feels like they don't know how to use the medium, which is an insane accusation to make given the company this film came from. Sorry for the tantrum. Let's return back to your daily schedule program. Daya is startled by a loud noise that she hears coming from the dumbwaiter. When she opens it, Asha and Star falls out. Asha asks Daya for help and they hide Star within the chicken coop. Daya demands an explanation, but before Asha can give her one, palace guards make their way into the kitchen, asking Daya if she's seen Asha. Daya lies to them, sending them off to look elsewhere. Asha tells Daya all that transpired. If what you're saying is true, then we need to leave this place, this island. I can't. All this started because of me, and it wouldn't be right to just leave. What I don't get is why is Magnifico so threatened by Star? The man has the power to grant wishes. Because it's not his power. What do you mean, Star? Those wishes are not just your greatest desires. They are your hopes, your dreams, that spark that makes you never want to give up. There's nothing more powerful, and he's using them to increase his own power. That's why he won't give them back. It'll weaken him. But if we can return all the wishes back to the people, then it could weaken him enough that Star might be able to take him. I don't know, Asha. Star doesn't look that great. Star? Why is your light so dim? That's one of the rules. I'm only allowed a limited time, and then I have to go back. Those wishes used up a lot of my time. There's a knock at the door. Asha hides as Simon enters. He informs Daya that everyone is being summoned in the courtyard. Daya leaves to check it out while Asha stays hidden with Star. Magnifico does his best to calm the restless crowd and inform them that they have been betrayed, but assures them that the traitor is no threat and the wish ceremony will commence as planned. However, the crowd is not satisfied, and in fact, for the first time in many years, they question him and the system he has implemented. They start mentioning the light and how it made them feel. The baker compares the feeling to how he felt when getting his wish granted and how similar they are to each other. This has the crowd in a frenzy as they all want to experience that feeling again and start asking for their wishes to be granted. Magnifico becomes disgusted by what he is seeing as it reminds him of his family and disappears into his castle. After everything I've done for them, this is the thanks I get. They don't mean anything by it, and once the ceremony is done and over with, everything will go back to normal. No, it won't, because they've shown me their true colors. They've shown me that no matter how perfect I make their lives, it'll never be enough, and I'm tired of granting everyone else's wishes but my own. What are you going to do? Something I should have done a long time ago. I think this section is pretty much self-explanatory, but I do want to add that Magnifico keeping the wishes because he doesn't trust people didn't feel like a strong enough motive, so by revealing that he's been using the wishes for his own personal gain gives more credence as to why he's so possessive of them and that his corruption was already taken place. And now he's also lost his motive for hiding his true nature, so things are about to get interesting. As for Star, I wanted to give more urgency not only to his character but also the situation because it felt like there was a lack of that in the film, especially given how fast-paced it was, hence the reveal of Star having limited time on Earth. Asha and Daya carry Star to her house where her family was just getting ready to leave for the wish ceremony. Asha reveals everything to her family, and while they are overwhelmed by all that they've just been told, they stand with Asha and try to figure out what to do next. Saba looks after Star. To think all this happened because I wanted my wish granted. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when it's such a beautiful wish. You know what my wish is? Wishes are a part of who you are, so it never truly leaves you. I can't make your wish come true, but I can remind you of it. Star places his hand on Saba's shoulder, the mandolin gently floats into Saba's hands, and for the first time in years he plays. Asha tears up hearing him play for the very first time. When he finishes, Asha starts to come to a realization that perhaps getting one's wish granted may not be the most important part about having a wish. At that moment, the door is forced open as palace guards come in and arrest all of them. Asha spots Simon and he hesitantly reveals that he overheard her and Dahlia talking. He wanted his wish granted, so he told the king everything he heard. Asha and her family are taken to the dungeon, but Star is taken to Magnifico. So you're the one that's been causing me all this trouble. What are you? What you pretend to be. I get it now. To think those childhood stories were actually real. Who would have guessed? Magnifico, I heard you arrested Asha and her family. What's going on? Who's that? A temporary nuisance. Amaya, please go and oversee the preparations for the ceremony. Magnifico, he's just a boy. He's dangerous, Amaya. Trust me. I'm so sorry, Dahlia. You just got here and I ruined whatever chance you had for a happy life. Asha, my life has always been a struggle as I'm constantly reminded of my limitations. But since meeting you, you make me forget my limits and make me believe I can do anything. At that moment, the queen enters the dungeon and reveals that she's on their side as Magnifico has changed beyond all recognition. She frees them and they come up with a plan to release all the wishes and Star, while Magnifico is distracted at the ceremony. Amaya will send the guards away when it's time, and that will be the cue to execute the plan. She leaves to prepare for the ceremony and to keep Magnifico from getting suspicious. All the preparations have been arranged as you requested. Thank you, Amaya. You have always been the one person I can count on. Magnifico, I'm your wife, and I will always do what I believe is best for you. That's why I let you keep your wish, because I didn't want you to change. But now I realize the mistake I made. I must always be a king first and treat all my subjects equally with no exceptions. To Amaya's horror, he takes her wish from her by force, as Star watches in horror. This little bit here is specifically to show Asha the joy that a wish brings, not just from having it fulfilled, but also by what it inspires. She now has seen what it takes and what it can give, increasing her motive to retrieve not just her family's wishes, but everyone's, and not just for the sake of stopping the Magnifico either. Simon is still a traitor because there was nothing wrong with that, and in fact, I quite enjoyed the depiction of the lengths one would and could go to get their wish granted. However, I do feel that this could have been avoided in the film if his friends wasn't such dicks to him. As for Amaya, I liked her character, and like I previously said, I don't want to drastically change too much, but again, the spoon-feeding in this movie. The queen being told what the right thing to do is by a f***ing mouse was so needlessly pointless because it was pretty clear she was coming to that conclusion herself. One thing that I was curious about with her character was if Magnifico had granted her wish, and if he had, what was it? With that said, I like the idea that Magnifico chose not to take Amaya's wish, which I think would represent the humanity he had left in him, but by taking her wish, specifically by force, shows that there's no redemption for him. The guards leave, and Asha and the others make their way to the king's office. They find Star and free him. Star opens the door to the wishes, but no one's sure what to do next. It's not safe for any of them, but since Asha has been exposed to the wishes a few times, she thinks she might be able to withstand them long enough to figure something out. However, Star knows what needs to be done. He volunteers, insisting that the wishes will give him the strength necessary to release them, but Asha can't help but feel that there's a catch. Unfortunately, there's no time left. The wish ceremony commences, and Simon gets his wish granted, transforming him into a knight, but Magnifico adds an extra element. He makes it so Simon is loyal beyond doubt. A light can be seen flickering at the top of the tower. The light gets brighter and brighter until it bursts open the roof, releasing the wishes. Marvel at the sight. Those are your wishes, your greatest desires that kept you from being satisfied, or so I thought. But now the truth has been revealed to me. I naively thought that if I took away your desire to achieve, then you'd be content. But you've shown me that you're not capable of contentment, that no matter all that I provide for you, it'll never be enough. It wasn't then, and I was a fool to think it would be any different now. And now, my dear citizens, we come at a crossroads as history repeats itself. Asha holds Star in her arms as the last of his light goes out. Star, what can I do? How can I help? Never stop wishing. What good is wishing if this is the end result? If only I had magic too. Maybe I could fix this. Asha, magic doesn't make wishes come true. Star, you've told me that before, but I don't understand. What's the point of wishing if that's true? With a smile on his face, he turns back into a star and returns back to where he came from. Magnifico unleashes his dark powers and enslaves everyone except for Asha. I really must thank you, Asha. You made me realize that my parents didn't make the wrong choice when using forbidden magic. The only mistake they made was using this power to try and save the ungrateful, when this power has a greater purpose. That power is evil. What purpose could it possibly serve? Well, let me tell you. Thanks to your little friend, I have finally grasped the power of a wish. If a simple little wish can summon a star from the sky, then it stands to reason, if properly harnessed, they can give someone the power of one. You want to be a star? No. I want to be the only star in this world, and thanks to these powers I already have, I know this was destined to be. There are other stars, and I'll wish on every one of them. Go ahead. But I imagine it'll be hard to wish on something you can't see. At that moment, Magnifico blocks the sky with his magic. Asha tries to think of a way to stop him, but becomes distracted by something in his hand. Magnifico destroys Saba's wish and an overwhelming feeling of despair takes over. Asha becomes overwhelmed herself as she charges at him for what he just did. But she's helpless against his magic as he tosses her around. Star's last words echo through Asha as she asks herself, if magic doesn't make wishes come true, and neither does wishing upon a star, then what does? Not knowing the answer, Asha begins to give in to her despair, but another voice echoes through her. Some wishes are just too precious to rely on others to fulfill. Asha finally realizes what her father meant all those years ago and what Star was trying to tell her. She now realizes what her wish truly was, and it fills her with hope. She sings, spreading that hope to others. Magnifico becomes furious as the wishes are leaving him and are going to Asha. He fires a ray of magic at her, but Asha picks up Dahlia's cane and uses it to shield herself. His magic chips away at it, leaving only a stick, but it's more than enough as everyone's wishes stand with Asha. She waves the stick, unleashing a wave of magic that engulfs Magnifico in his dark magic. He tries to fight it, but it's too much, and after so many years of resisting the wish's strong emotions, Amaya's wish comforts him as he finally relents. The nightmare is over, and after the initial shock wore off, the people get to work rebuilding their lives, with Amaya as their new ruler. She misses her husband, but working so close with the people gives her a new sense of fulfillment. As for Asha, she assists in helping people achieve their dreams with her new wand, but only enough to get them started, as the rest will be up to them. As for Saba, having his wish destroyed did take a toll on him, but he holds on to Star's words about how wishes never truly leave you, so he's been relearning to play the mandolin. Finally, Dahlia has become the official royal cook, and the local shoemaker has constructed a new shoe that would allow Dahlia to walk without a limp. And in case anyone was wondering, Simon is serving out his sentence with community service. For the most part, everything happens the way it did in the film. The difference is, this is where all the nuances that I've added comes into play. By making it clear that neither magic or wishing upon a star generally makes a wish come true, this forces Asha to fully break away from her previous assumptions about wishes, and finally, what breaks through to her is the seed that her father planted. This new enlightenment is what encourages her to sing and share her newfound hope with others. As for Star, by making clear that his purpose was not to grant wishes, but assist in the fulfillment of them, I wanted his actions to represent that. That is why his part in the story ended so abruptly. I also didn't want him to magically fix everything, because in my opinion that defeats the purpose of the messaging. However, I did want him to leave the way he came, and that is with a hopeful smile. Now onto Magnifico. What wasted potential. This film did a decent job making Magnifico intimidating at the end, but again, it felt like they were too scared to commit, and this goes back to what I said in the beginning about this film feeling safe. There's no lasting consequences to what Magnifico or any of the other characters do. The fact that they couldn't f***ing kill the man off proves that. Not to mention, Simon wasn't punished either. The goal for Magnifico in this rewrite was for his actions to be the cause of his downfall and not blame it on a book. I hate that book. That's what it felt like, but they couldn't commit to that either and maybe have Star heal him, so we're left with what I feel to be a very disorienting character. Besides the movie trying to be an origin story for the song When You Wish Upon a Star, it apparently also wanted to be the origin story for the godmother or the concept of her, but neither works. The point of an origin is that it has not existed beforehand, whether that be the term or profession. In the movie, they know what a godmother is within the magical sense, so this can't be the origin of her profession. Not to mention, I find this section very contradicting to the message of the story. They spent 2/3 of the movie getting rid of the magical guy who was giving them what they wanted. They got rid of him and decided they want to work to make their own dreams come true, but decides that they still want a magical person looking over them. Instead of outright saying that's what Asha is in the rewrite, I went down the more subtle route just because I didn't want to bother with it. I don't agree with this, but I kept it in the rewrite for consistency's sake. However, instead of Star giving Asha the wand, I would prefer that it was achieved through adversity, and I figured why not make Dahlia's character design relevant as well, instead of her just being that diverse friend trope character we're all used to seeing. I don't know if this is true or not, but I read that the reason Dahlia has a crutch is because the voice actress that voices Dahlia suffers from a disorder that affects her mobility, and whoever was in charge of the character designs thought it would be inclusive to add that medical element to the character this woman was voicing. I'm sure there are those that probably think this was considerate. However, if this is true, this proves to me that the story specifically, but also its characters, was not the priority in the production of this film, which is insane to say out loud, but the film is evidence of that. Adding that disability was completely irrelevant to Dahlia's character because it's never mentioned and it does not play a role at all in the events of the story. Not to mention, to my knowledge, she is the only disabled character in this film, which raises the question, why? Why, in this magical utopia, are the people not up in arms forcing their magical king to heal their only crippled citizen? I normally try to stay out of this part of the conversation because I just want to focus on the story and characters, but if this is true, I couldn't ignore it. Lastly, when it comes to the happy ending, I want there to be consequences that doesn't get magically fixed because that kind of defeats the message of the movie, that they have to work for what they want. The reason I chose for Saba to get his wish destroyed is because this all started because of him. He was the driving force. Not to mention, for the majority of the story, we have gotten to know Saba on a more intimate level compared to even Asha, who is the main character. Therefore, it only makes sense that it's his wish that gets destroyed. In the film, Sakima's wish gets destroyed first, but the thing is, we don't know anything about Sakima or the 3 other characters that got their wish destroyed. The emotional impact this cruel act should have implemented doesn't carry much, if any weight at all, due to the lack of familiarity with the characters. This is it. We are finally done with the rewrite. This was surprisingly an enjoyable rewrite. It was the explanations that got to me. Thank God this wasn't a deep dive video. When it comes to this movie, it feels like nothing within the film was thought out all the way through. The music was underwhelming, the characters felt incomplete, and the story was inconsistent due to all the variables for the sake of convenience. That, in my opinion, reveals the lack of confidence the writers had for this story. People have expressed their frustration and disappointment in this film, but I'm just heartbroken by it, because this was supposed to be a celebration of the Disney company that used to be the standard, that used to be the bar that everyone tried to reach, not just in animation, but in storytelling as well. That's why we have such iconic films from our childhood, such as The Land Before Time, The Prince of Egypt, and Anastasia. These films exist because of Disney. It sucks to say that given the state of the company, but that is the truth. Animation is near and dear to my heart, and it's amazing to be getting this slew of animated stories. What's even more incredible is that all this was made possible because of one man, because this one man asked a simple question.
In the shorter cartoons, you can make people laugh. And the gag is the basic component of these things. You get people to laugh. But Walt Disney now is asking another question. Can you make people cry? Can you make people cry over a drawing?
I don't know if this company or the animated department will be around for another 100 years. I know I sure as hell not. Regardless, I am grateful for what the company has achieved with animation. They may not be the standard anymore, but they will always be the building blocks as other creators take reference from their previous works. And in a weird way, the failure of this film can be perceived as a blessing in disguise, as so many creators have started to make their own versions of what they would have liked this film to have been, and I think that's pretty damn amazing. This was a long video, and I thank you for sticking around till the end. I want to preference that if you do like this movie just as it is, I'm happy this film is being appreciated by someone. This film was just not my cup of tea, and if this rewrite was not your cup of tea, let me know why. What did you like or didn't like about it? Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. Oh, and also, thanks Walt for daring to dream.